Have you ever had this experience? You spend an afternoon with someone, and though the conversation seems pleasant, you leave with a strange sense of emptiness and fatigue, as if your own energy has been quietly siphoned away. Or perhaps, in a relationship that appears intimate, you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, terrified that one wrong word might detonate an emotional landmine, leaving you in a spiral of endless guilt and confusion. You might think this is simply a matter of incompatibility, but the great pioneer of psychology, Carl Jung, would tell you that you may be navigating an uncharted psychological territory, one filled with invisible currents and whirlpools. These currents originate from a place that is vast, mysterious, and often ignored within ourselves and others, the ocean of the unconscious. In this video, let's follow Jung's guidance and become explorers of the soul, venturing together into these deep waters. Our purpose is not to label others, but to learn to recognize the invisible forces that drain us and, ultimately, to find the path home to our whole selves. Our journey begins at the most superficial yet most deceptive place, the perfect mask. You certainly know someone like this. Perhaps it's a colleague who is always energetic, smiles at everyone, never refuses a request, and whose project reports are always flawless. They are known as Mr. Perfect or a master of emotional intelligence. But only you, working closely with them, can feel a strange sense of distance. When a project hits a major snag and you confess your anxiety, they pat you on the shoulder with a smile and say, "Don't worry, relax, we'll definitely handle it." Their words feel like a standardized, programmed command. You can't detect a single flicker of genuine emotion. All of your true feelings seem to hit a soft but impenetrable wall, absorbed completely, but met with no real resonance. Jung called this idealized face we wear to adapt to society the persona. It is necessary, but danger quietly emerges when a person becomes so addicted to playing this perfect role that they lose touch with who they truly are. As Jung wrote in 2 essays on analytical psychology, the persona is a semblance, a compromise between individual and society as to what a man should appear to be. When you spend a long time in the presence of such a living semblance, the most potent feeling is one of profound loneliness. Faced with their impeccable perfection, you unconsciously hide your true self and are forced to wear a mask of your own. This inauthentic interaction will slowly exhaust all your hopes for a sincere connection. But what lies deliberately hidden beneath this mask? This brings us to a deeper, more perilous stop on our journey, the projected shadow. Perhaps you have a relative or friend who is a moral exemplar, always offering corrective feedback on your lifestyle. If you sleep in on the weekend, you're lazy. If you buy new clothes, you're vain. They have a hunter's instinct for the flaws of others and pass harsh moral judgment. In their presence, you always feel you're not good enough, even feeling ashamed of your own normal desires. You think this is righteousness? Jung tells us that what you are actually seeing is their projected shadow. The shadow is everything within us that we are unwilling to acknowledge and have repressed into the unconscious. When a person cannot face their own shadow, they project it onto others like a slideshow, gaining a false sense of moral superiority by judging you. As Jung pointedly remarked, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Their anger towards you is, in fact, a window into their own shadow, and your core feeling in this relationship becomes one of guilt and self-doubt. Under constant judgment, you begin to truly believe there is something wrong with you, slowly losing your own voice in the midst of repression. When this repressed shadow energy no longer exists as a diffuse darkness, but solidifies around a specific trauma, it evolves into something far more explosive, the emotional landmines of the complex. You have surely experienced such a bolt from the blue. One moment, all is calm. The next, a single careless word from you unleashes a tempest. For instance, you are busy with work and take a few extra minutes to reply to a message, and they suddenly explode, demanding, "Don't you care about me anymore?" and dredging up countless old grievances to prove their point. You are left speechless, feeling that no explanation will suffice. Jung called this cluster of unconscious energy, formed around a traumatic core of memories and emotions, a complex. When your words or actions inadvertently flip the switch on this complex, you are no longer speaking with the rational adult before you, but with the wounded, hysterical child inside them. As Jung stated in Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, everyone knows nowadays that people have complexes. What is not so well known is that complexes can have us. When you are hit by another's complex, you are plunged into a state of immense confusion and helplessness. To avoid triggering another war, you become fearful and vigilant, dancing through a minefield in their presence, your nerves stretched taut until all your passion for the relationship is exhausted. However, our unconscious does not only bury our traumas, it also nurtures our most perfect ideals. And when this ideal is projected outward, it creates the most fatal of attractions. Perhaps you have experienced love at first sight, meeting someone and feeling in an instant that they are your destiny, a perfect match for every imagined quality of your ideal partner. You fall swiftly in love, believing you have found your soulmate. Jung called this perfect image of the opposite gender within our psyche the anima, the feminine image in a man's unconscious, or the animus, the masculine image in a woman's. What we call falling in love is often just the projection of this internal, perfect phantom onto a real person. As Jung's work suggests, we meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. This projection is one of the most common ways we meet ourselves. The danger lies in what happens when the sharp edges of reality pierce this bubble of idealization. When you discover that the other person is not the phantom you imagined, your feelings plummet from ecstasy into profound disappointment and pain. Your relationship transforms from a beautiful dream into a war of mutual blame, where each tries to fix the other back into the original illusion. Now, let us imagine a person who wears an indestructible persona, while wildly projecting their shadow, and is simultaneously dominated by their inner complexes. When these out-of-control unconscious forces converge in one person, an ultimate dangerous personality is born. They become the final destination of our journey and the deepest darkness, an unconscious energy black hole. This person often appears in the guise of a victim. They are always in a state of crisis, crying to you and complaining for hours. Out of sympathy, you endlessly comfort and advise them, but they never truly change. They will say, "You're the only one I have. I don't know what I'd do without you." This sentence acts as an invisible chain, making you feel responsible for their suffering. When you unwittingly become their energy supply station, your core feelings are a chronic, unrelenting fatigue and a hostage-like sense of guilt. Ultimately, you slowly lose yourself because your life has been completely devoured by their black hole. So facing this dark ocean, how should we navigate? Do we turn and flee, or do we wait to be capsized? Jung offers a third way: the hero's journey toward wholeness. The starting point of this path is not to blame others, but to turn inward. First, practice radical self-observation. When you feel discomfort, pause and look inside. As Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Objectively observe your emotions and physical sensations. This is the first cut that severs the puppet strings of the unconscious. Second, bravely embrace your shadow. The more you cannot tolerate a certain trait in others, the more it indicates that this is a repressed part of your own shadow. To embrace the shadow is not to act out evil, but to integrate the life force behind it. This requires immense moral courage, but as Jung professed, "I would rather be whole than good." A good person may simply be one who has repressed half of themselves, while a whole person has accepted all of their reality. Next, establish healthy psychological boundaries. A boundary is not a wall, but a gate that you control. You must inscribe this amulet in your heart. Their emotions are their responsibility. My emotions are my responsibility. I am not responsible for their feelings. You can learn to say gently, but firmly, "I understand you're hurting right now, but I need some time to process my own feelings." Or, "I am willing to listen, but can we agree to talk for just 20 minutes? Finally, withdraw your projections. The next time you feel intense disappointment or anger towards someone, ask yourself, am I demanding that they become an idealized phantom from my own mind? To withdraw a projection means you begin to take responsibility for your own inner ideals instead of imposing them on others. Jung left us with this thunderous, world-altering declaration. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Encountering these dangerous personalities, though painful, can also be a gift in disguise. It acts as a mirror, forcing us to see the forgotten corners of our own hearts. It is an invitation to stop being the victim of fate and to become the author of our own souls. This inner path of exploration may be long and challenging, but with every step inward, you reclaim a piece of your power from the outer world. In the end, you will discover that the one who can truly protect, nourish, and complete you is not any perfect external relationship, but the whole and authentic self that emerges after integrating all its light and darkness. Now we have completed a deep dive into the ocean of the unconscious together. This journey may have been profound, perhaps even heavy, because it touches not on distant theories, but on the real and complex relationships that each of us may have experienced. Have you ever experienced something like this? I'd love to hear your story and insights in the comments below. This space belongs to every brave explorer of the self. Real growth is not a one-time epiphany, but a whole season of cultivation. Let's continue to walk this path of self-growth together.